Hello everyone. Hopefully everything is working correctly. I had to set up an entirely new environment post MarcNA. I'm wearing the shirt that I wanted to wear at MarcNA. I had so many plans for that event if it wasn't for the storm. But I am in uniform. Look guys, MarcNA, yes, alright. So hi Amar, hi Elmer. There's Mina, hi Pop Reef. Listen, I need to catch you guys up on stuff because in about 17 minutes or so, Michelle is going to join us on the live stream to receive their donation that came from WAMUS, that came through MarcNA, or MarcNA helped, anyway, the raffle money that was collected went straight to WAMUS, a nonprofit club, and then that money is being sent to this nonprofit Coral Restoration Foundation. So we're going to present her with a check on camera. So I'm very excited about that. But I wanted to give you guys kind of a recap of what was going on. I see more of you there. Hello, everybody. I'm not ignoring you. Certain things I wanted to do on the show did not work out because of the storm. So let me catch you up. A week ago, no, let's see, what day is it? Yes, a week ago Wednesday, I got a text from the person that was going to co-host the show with me, Peter, and he said he wasn't going to be able to make it. And I had to immediately adapt and adjust, now what am I going to do? Because that person's not here to help me. So I let Dwayne know I'm going to need you to really step up. I let Ian know you're really going to have to step up. I had prizes arriving. I was trying to get speakers to send their presentations to me. I don't know if you've watched all the talks yet. If you haven't, you need to. Every single one was fantastic. I mean, maybe there was one that wasn't fantastic, but they were great. They were so good. I've watched a few, and I am so impressed with how it looked. And that was my goal. I wanted a 4K presentation. And I just, because we do 4K every week on this live stream. So why would we do a lesser quality for a big event? And so that was my goal. And so I needed their presentations here. I had to have extra computer equipment here. Everything had to be wired properly. There was a lot that went into it. So that was Wednesday. I got this bad news. But at the same time, I got the good news that WAMUS, the Washington Area Marine Aquarium Society is probably what it stands for, they said, yes, we will be happy to help you with the raffle portion. And I said, okay. And so I had to get a whole guy named Scott. And I said, Scott, I need you to set the software so that I can populate it. And can you please, call me as soon as you're available? Didn't hear from him for a whole day. 24 hours. I sent emails and everything. I was like, oh my God, how do I get a hold of him? I'm running out of time. All right. Thursday, Peter sends me a message, says, listen, I'm going to walk you through the eCam software and teach you how these things work. So that way the show should go well. So I spent an hour and a half with him on Zoom getting a tutorial. Also, I had Ian building all the graphics I needed for the show. He made me all kinds of different visuals, and he gave me the lower thirds, which sometimes I made a mistake on, but most of the time I got it right. He even has made us the thumbnails for the videos now, which I was populating before the live stream started. So I'm trying to get all those updated so that all the pictures, all the images of the videos look the same and consistent and look really good. And then the raffle software had to be implemented. And on that day, that evening, or that morning and afternoon, I worked with their treasurer, I believe, who was able to set up the software and plug in the club's information. And then later on that evening, he set up the money part, which went to a special account that I didn't have, that they didn't have. They actually had to set it up. And then that money would be tied to their bank. So all the money that you guys spent on raffle prizes went to the special account that then went to the club's bank account so they could write a check to the Coral Restoration Foundation. And the reason I'm going over this so specifically is because I had so many people quietly tell me, you're going to get in so much trouble for the raffle. And I kept thinking, God, the raffle is a fundraiser. Why is this such a thing? And I mean, I don't know the answer. I know there's a lot of people who are just scared and just worried and just always fear that, the IRS is going to come get you. And obviously I didn't need to have problems with the IRS. I talked to my CPA about this thing. I talked to the city when I set up the MarcNA business name. I mean, I did everything. But I still was a little on edge. And so I wanted to do something that would work. And I did. I got them to say yes, thank goodness, and then they set it all up. And so now I had a website that was completely empty, had to be populated with the prizes on Thursday night. And I went to sleep. Then Friday morning, I woke up first thing, and I knew people were going to be here, so I thought, let me mow the lawn. So I knocked that out. I vacuumed the house. I cleaned the guest bathroom. The things people would see. And then I had to rush to the airport to get Dwayne. And I picked him up, and I caught him up on what's going on, and I brought him back to the house. And I said, listen, I'm going to need your help with these raffle prizes. There's way more prizes than I expected. My original plan was that the raffle would be 24 raffles, one prize each. And, every hour somebody gets something. That was it. But I had like 80 prizes here. And I was like, how am I going to, build this? And I said, Dwayne, can you help me turn these into combos? And that's exactly what he did. So we worked together for a couple of hours. And then he said, what time does Ian get in? And I opened up Ian's message, and it said, I looked at the text. It said 5:06, and it was 4:15. I said, we got to go. We got to go to the airport. And it's Friday, and it's rush hour. And we got there at 5:07. I was super proud of myself. As we're entering the airport, I looked down at the text while I'm at that little gate waiting for it to go up to get in. And I want to see what terminal he's going to be at. And then I see it on my screen. Leaves at 5:06, arrives at 7:20. I'm like, no! Oh my God, we're here more than 2 hours early. And we don't have hours to waste. We literally need to be working on things and not sitting at an airport for 2 hours. And I'm 45 minutes from my house. So driving back and back again was also an insane idea. So my plan was we get Ian, Dwayne and Ian and I go to dinner. We kind of do a game plan for what we're going to do. And then we get here and we hit the ground running. Well, now that I've burned 2 more hours being a dummy, I thought, okay, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and Dwayne and I will go to dinner and poor Ian will have to have fast food. And then we ran an errand too to get all the candy and stuff that we could snack on camera silently because I felt we needed that. And a big box of 5-hour energies and I don't know, a few other things. And we went back to the airport and picked up Ian and gave him the bad news that he was not going to have his nice, comfortable dinner because now the clock is against us. I also, at that point, contacted my friend Wes and his wife Maria. They're both my friends. I went to their wedding. And I said, I need you guys to drop everything and come over to my house and help me get this raffle stuff implemented because it's completely new software that we only had access to as of last night. And I need this completely filled out before morning. And they quickly said yes, and they came on over. I got Wes, Maria, and Dwayne to work on that in the studio building. I have that photo shoot area for my products, right? And so I said, just use that. Put the prize there, take a picture, stick it on the website, put the description, choose how the tickets work. And they said, okay, we're on it. And Wes and Maria, and Dwayne, they were just a machine. They were just knocking it out. I'm in this room with Ian, and we're setting everything up. We're trying to get it all figured out, where the screens are going to go, with the cool little lighting in the back corner. That the corner's not just disgusting. That kind of stuff. And make sure the lighting was right, make sure the computers are connected, the cameras are connected, doing all this stuff. I bought a 100-foot HDMI cable that's fiber optic to go from this room all the way into the studio because we're going to do interviews in there. And I was thinking a couple nice chairs, 2 guys talking, all the raffle prizes in sight. This will be a really cool backdrop, for changing the venue, to make it look a little different. And so that was the plan. And we wired that through the walls of my house to get it all the way out to the building. Did all that. And there was other things we did too. But it was somewhere around 10:30 or so at night. There was this horrible sound coming from this window right behind the camera. And I told Ian, do you hear that? And he was like, what? And I'm just like, it was just like this woo, 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 woo. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So I ran out the door and Jack, of course, chased me. And we're in the yard and I can hear hail falling. I'm not seeing it, but you can hear doosh, doosh, doosh. And I'm looking in front of me. There's the building. Everyone's inside working. And inside that and outside of the building are the boxes of salt, which are about to get hit with weather. So I opened the door and said, I need to get the salt inside right now. And they're like, why? There's nothing. It's fine out there. It's just overnight. And then they saw the wind whipping the door back and forth, and they could see the branches going crazy behind me, and they could see my hair was standing up on edge. And so we're passing these boxes in through the door. And then as quick as I can, I close the door, and Jack and I run back inside the house. And so they're in there hunkered down. Ian and I are in here with Jack, and, we're just kind of like, what? That was crazy. There was no prediction of weather whatsoever. This came out of nowhere. I don't know what's going on. And Ian had even told me, why do you use the Apple weather app? You should have the one from NOAA. And I was just like, I don't know. He says, you got to pay for it, but it's the most accurate. I'm like, did your app tell us? Because He says, well, it says it's raining. I'm like, no, that is not what that is out there. I feel like we were hit with a tornado that didn't turn. Okay, I mean, it was crazy. Then lightning struck. And that's when the three of them come running in the house and they said, we don't want to be outside in a metal building during this. And I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. Come on in. And of course, then all the lights went out and everything went dark. And I thought, the one thing I was, on the back of my mind, please don't have a power outage during MarcNA. I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous thing to think, but, I was like, hopefully there won't be some drunk driver hits a pole that knocks the wires down and we have no power. That was kind of where my brain was. So I'm lighting candles. I'm running around the room. I'm trying to figure out, how to keep everyone happy and what we're going to do here. And I'm thinking, it'll take a while for the power to come back on. But, I was thinking, an hour or two or something. So in the meantime, I said, I'm going to go outside. And no, actually, I was looking outside. I've got something to show you. So let's go ahead and here was our setup for the live stream. So you can kind of see what that looked like. And this was filmed way later. It's way out of order, but I'm just showing you kind of the room we were working in. So this is where all the magic happened. We had multiple screens going and multiple buttons to push. And sometimes I even hit a button accidentally I wasn't supposed to touch. But the storm got really, really bad, as you know. And I looked out front and there was a tree in front of my truck. Let me just catch you up. So at this point, I have the generator running. I'm disgusted about the truck. And I had set up a system with Bobby a couple of months ago. It's something I bought like a year ago. We finally installed it 2 months ago. Where I have this huge cable that's a 50 amp supply from the generator to the fish room as well as the house. And then we could then run extension cords from the fish room into the rest of the house, to wherever we needed it. That was my plan. I had no idea I'd be doing it during an event like this. So now let me take you back to 7-Eleven. This is after I picked up more gasoline, and now I can finally see my truck. Nope, sorry, this one. Even here. And the hood. And there's a crease. And this piece is sheared off. All right, so now I see Michelle is here. I'll bring her in a moment. So we are sitting in this house. We have the electricity going to the fish room. And at that point, Wes says, can we run an extension cord outside to the outside building and continue doing the raffle stuff? I was like, if you can do that, that'd be great. So we got them some power out there. Maria was taking pictures with the iPhone at the photo studio area. They were sending it via text and email to a computer so he could then populate to the website one at a time. It was a whole ordeal. What is this? I need to get this set up. Give me a second here. I want to get Michelle pulled in. So I will go ahead and, yeah, that should work, I think. Michelle, I see you here. Let's see what I can do here. I'll do that maybe. Give me 1 second here. I got to figure everything out. I'm going to go here. And this is starting to look familiar. There's Michelle. Hello there. Can you hear me, Michelle? You can. Okay. But I can't hear you yet. Let's see. Are you? You're not muted. Weird. Just a second, guys. It's like I did this a week ago. I should know what I'm doing. Okay. Oh, I have an idea. Nope, that's not it either. I have plenty of volume. Click that. That didn't do it. All right, Michelle. Sorry. Second, get you in here. At least I can get your face on camera. We're just gonna have to read your lips. That'll be fun. And this will be iPad, which is fine. Just double checking something, y'all. Okay, yeah, that looks right. Let's come back to our interview. What's going on here? All right, let's see. Go back to 2 people again. How come I can't hear you at all? What is wrong? Let me try this. Let's just publish. Okay. Michelle?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
That was it. I was in preview mode so people couldn't see what I was doing. And apparently then you don't have audio. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, guys. So Michelle is here from the Core Restoration Foundation. She is going to receive our donation. She doesn't even know how much it is. She asked and I wouldn't tell her. And she's in charge of the donor program, so she should know the money. But I was catching you guys up on where we were at. So here we are. I'm almost done with my little story, Michelle. If you can hang in there just a little bit longer.
Absolutely. No, I just joined a few minutes ago, but I'm pulled in. I'm on the edge of my seat.
You're fascinated? All right. So these guys were working in the outside building on the raffle stuff. I was working with Ian on the inside, trying to set up the presentations, set up the slides, the lower thirds, building all that, getting into the software, learning how to do it all because I just learned it the night before from Peter. And we finally got to bed. It was 4 in the morning. I mean, it was 4 a.m. I was in bed and I got up at 6:30. So I got my 2.5 hours of sleep. And then at that point I got up. Dwayne's already in the house and he says, I'm going over the raffle stuff. It's still not right. I got to fix some things. Like, okay, you handle that. And he says, what are you gonna do about the show? Because we still had no power. I mean, the power's been out since 10:30 the night before. It is now 6:30. There's still no power. The daylight's coming in, the generator's still running, the reef is still bubbling, And I said, I'm going to go get Ian. I think I'm going to Home Depot. I'm going to buy the thickest extension cord they have so I can run it from the fish room all the way into the room I'm in right now. So we aren't running all this lights and computer screens and computers off of a skinny cord that gets hot and ignites on the carpet, Yeah. So I picked him up and he said, are we doing the show? I said, yep, we're doing it. We're going to go on the assumption power will come on any moment. And so we went to Home Depot, bought the $100 cord as I expected, ran that into this room and got everything operational. And at 9 o'clock, I'm pretty sure we started close to on time. And we pulled Michelle in, just like now, except it went a little more seamlessly that time. And we were able to have our nice presentation with her. Then I'm still catching you guys up, so let me go a little further before we get to the money part. At 8 o'clock, Dwayne told me the raffle's ready. I'm like, great, because no one's seen it. No one has any idea how it's going to work. And I told you guys earlier, I wanted there to be a raffle prize every hour. Well, the software didn't allow that. So I had to readjust my expectations yet again. Said, okay, we're going to do the raffle at the end of the show. And the software picks all the winners like that. It's just instantly done, which is great. It's, instead of dragging it out and making it painful for everyone. And it emails all the winners. So, I mean, everyone that bought something, put in their address, their email, their phone number, they got a notification, which is a really nice system. And so it allowed me every hour to say, hey, guys, be sure you enter the raffle, raise money for Coral Restoration Foundation, and then at the end, and we could even say, this is how much we're at. This is like a telethon, like the old days. And it was actually, it was probably a better method than my hourly plan that I had initially. But I had other things I wanted to do. I wanted to give the sponsors tons of love, and I did not do as well as I wanted. I was wanting to drop in their sponsored names on top of presentations here and there, just every once in a while to kind of remind you guys to buy things from them. I wanted to run their commercials multiple times. But we were working in a house with no electricity. We were just doing good to get the presentations live. We were doing good to have microphones that worked. It was just quite the ordeal. And I just had to work with the best I could under very, very, very difficult circumstances. And several people have reached out to me and said, I don't know how you did that. That is insane. Because our power didn't come on until 9 o'clock that night. So, Michelle, we were on with you at 9 a.m. At 9 p.m., the light on my ceiling popped on, and Dwayne ran in. He says, "Do we move all the wires?" I'm like, we don't do anything. We give them an hour to prove they mean it. Because we don't know that they're really going to give it. You know, that they turn it on and they turn it off again. And you're like, oh. And it comes on and then, oh. And so I'm like, let's make sure they mean it. And after 45 minutes or so, power had not wavered. At that point, we ended the presentation. We turned everything off, moved all the cords to new outlets, got the extension cords out of the way, moved everything, got the AC running for the first time. This room that I was in the upper 90s. It was crazy hot in here. And I had a fan sitting back there on the floor blowing what little bit of air, just some air movement in this room. But my reef tank was 80. The room the reef tank was in was 88. And Caitlin's reef, the little small 27-gallon, it was also 80 degrees. So it was around 5 o'clock that I realized I haven't heard anything on these tanks. And I need to open up my phone and look. And I saw the temperatures. And I texted Dwayne, come here. I was off camera because there was a presentation on screen. I muted my mic and said, I need you to go to 7-Eleven right now, buy bags of ice and throw them in the sump. I need you to go to my freezer right now, get that frozen 20-ounce bottle of water, put that in Caitlin's reef. And he's like, I'm on it. He took off and the tank started cooling. And I was like, okay, back to the show. And we just kept going on with this show. And it was really, really tricky to make it work and to just keep it going. And we had these lags between each live stream. And this is something that Terrence Fugazi had recommended. He says, don't do individual shows. You're losing your audience. They have to keep finding the next show. And I was like, I wanted every presentation to be standalone. But he was probably right. I should have just done one marathon stream with, you know, whatever happens in between and just let the audience kind of talk amongst themselves and watch the audience build over time. But that's not how I run my channel. I do it my way. Whether it's the right way, it's debatable. But we did successfully have 23 out of 24 speakers. We ended up raffling off a lot of stuff. And let's see, what else do I have here to tell you? Yeah, I mentioned all these things. Good. I'm keeping up with my notes. Good job, Mark. Oh, I also had plans to interact with the audience, and I really didn't. I mean, it was a live stream with a live audience, and I just barely was able to, you know, make the occasional post in there or something. But I couldn't, like, bring in questions from the audience like I'd planned. I was wanting to, guys. It just didn't work out. It was just too much going on, and I was really focusing on what was the most important thing to do right now. Make sure the presentation's going well, make sure you can hear the slides, make sure you can see the speaker, and that stuff was paramount. Everything else is an accessory, and so I was just like, I can't do it all. If Peter had been here, who knows? We might have done it all perfectly, but I don't know. Under these conditions and no electricity, it was really, really hard. So, Michelle, you want to know about the money. So
I just want to say, Mark, thank you so much for pulling everything together. I mean, having done fundraising events for the last 4 or 5 years or so, events never go perfectly. There's always something that will go wrong, but you had a lot of layers of things going on, you know, personally with the fish tank, also with the event, you know. So thank you for sticking through and continuing to find a way to pull it all together. I think overall it was a great event. It looked like there were a lot of people on on all the presentations.
Yeah.
So really great job. And thank you so much for including Coral Restoration Foundation and inviting me back in this little wrap up as well.
Yeah. Well, listen, let me put your video on. No one's seen this. This was what you wanted to put on at the end of your presentation last week, and we ran out of time. So I have this ready to go. We're going to switch to this guy right here. You get to keep smiling for all of us. And I'm hoping we'll have audio. I apologize. Gonna rewind this. And I'm gonna fix that. This is a live show. Everything's supposed to go wrong. Let's see. Publish. Back to live. Now I think we'll be ready. Let's try this one more time, everyone. Such a good video. I loved it.
Oh,
So really good
thank
to see
you.
that.
Well, I mean, I just want to say thank you so much for having the raffle support our work. And that obviously is a very cinematic highlight
Yeah.
of the work that we do. And man, all our restoration team makes it look easy in that video, but
They do.
it's a lot of hard work every single day that the weather allows us to be out. We are out on the boat, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the proceeds of this raffle are supporting. So thank you, everyone, so much.
I was looking at the hammer, you know, because I know those things get all rusty. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
really no other tool you can use. It just has to get rusty.
It just, yeah, that's just part of it. Even, the marine grade stuff, those tools just aren't meant to be in the salt water every
Right.
single day.
Yeah.
But our team does a great job with what they have. You can see we try to use as many reusable materials as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the numbers.
Hmm.
So we had people buy tickets all the way up until the very end because you had a chance to win all the way through. And every hour we're like, okay, we're at 2,200, we're at 4,100, we're at 6,500. You know, we ended the end. We raised $8,400.
Oh
And
my goodness.
I was like, that's great. And I knew there'd be some fees taken out because of the transactions. So
Sure.
the real money we raised for you was $8,102. Plus,
Oh my goodness.
my CPA wanted to help, so he threw in 100. Finiship, who's the company I used to ship all my packages, they wanted to give us $500. And then Slidelock said if you saw $500 worth of raffle tickets for our prizes that we put in there, we will match it with $500. And then his company matched another $500. So that put us at 200. It put us at $9,700. And then a private friend of mine said, I'll put in 300 more. That gets you to 10,000. I was like, cool, that's amazing. I love it. I can't believe my little show did that. Then I got a phone call Tuesday night from a billionaire. And I'm like, am I dreaming? Did I get a call? And I'm looking through my phone. I can't find it. There's no calls. I go to messages. There's no messages. I go into Facebook, and then I go into Messenger. There it is. He did. He texted me, and he said, hell of a show. I'm paraphrasing. He said, that show was everything I've wanted to do. I am so blown away that you pulled it off. He's like, and you just did like a telethon. You were sweaty in the gym, and you just kept going. And so this is Andrew Sandler, who runs Polo Reef. And he has a 17,000-gallon reef tank in his home that has been very well published on the web now. And he said, how much did you raise? I said, I think we're almost at $10,000. And he said, I want to double it. So I have a check here for you, Michelle.
Oh my goodness.
For $20,000 for the Coral Restoration Foundation.
Oh my gosh.
And you need to come here and pick this up because I can't find an envelope big enough.
I'll be right over.
But how cool is that? Our little show raised $20,000, y'all.
Oh my goodness.
Obviously, thank you to all the people that bought raffle tickets. Thank you to the extra money that's thrown in from Slide Lock. Polo Reef doubling the number. Polo Reef likes to give to nonprofits. And so he was just like, I'm happy to do it. So, you're going to get checks from a couple different locations. One's going to come straight from the Wamas Club in Washington. They're going to send that straight to you. And then I'm going to send you the cashier's check from, what MarcNA collected as well as from Polo Reef. So from the little bits that came in at the end. So you're going to have some money. You can go take your boat out. You have a little more fuel to go a little further into the reef.
Plant more corals out there. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, for putting this whole event together. Thank you, every single person that bought raffle tickets, that shared this with their friends, everybody else who jumped in as well. I'm absolutely blown away by the amount of support. Our reefs are going through a lot right now, but we have so much ahead of us.
Yeah.
And we are, as I mentioned in our presentation, we're expanding quite a bit. And so that this will really, really help. Thank you all so much.
That's awesome. Look, I didn't want to tell you last night what it was. I wanted to surprise you. She was like, can you tell me how much? I was like, I don't want to tell you.
Factor. That was fun.
No, it's more fun. You get the build up, So yeah, I got this giant check here, and I'm pretty sure it's legal. Just walking to the bank, I want to make a deposit.
Sure, yeah.
Sign the back, You
need an extra big pen.
Use a Sharpie. No one's ever done that before. All right, Michelle, thank you again for coming on. I am going to go ahead and let you go do your life. You were just out diving today, you said, right?
I was, yes. So I'm sorry, my hair's still probably a little bit wet, but I wanted to make sure to be here for you guys and to thank you for being there for Coral Restoration Foundation and the reefs overall. We appreciate that so much. Thank you.
We were really happy to do it. I just didn't think it was going to be so complicated. I didn't think there'd be a power outage,
Yeah. Well, if you ever do it again, it will be a breeze compared to this year.
Again. Never do it. No, one and done. I succeeded. It was such a team. I couldn't have done it without the other guys helping me. There's no way. It was so much work. All of us killed ourselves to make this happen, and we got all the way through it. And at the end, here's what we looked like at the end of the show in the upper left. And then we slept for 6 hours, from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then we went to dinner and had some fajitas and tried to just celebrate. And then that evening worked some more, and we had to box up all the raffle prizes, and I'm still shipping those out. They're not all gone yet. I have a lot to do. So there is a lot still going on, but trying to make everyone happy, and I got to still do some more things financially, too, for the books, for the CPA, and see what I can pay the speakers, because I wanted to pay each speaker as well. I haven't done that yet either, and here it's a week later. I haven't even done that, so I still have more things to do. But I am really glad that this happened. I was really happy to have such a big number. To be honest, I really thought we'd raise 2,000 or 3,000. That's kind of what I thought. So for it to be 20, it's 10 times what I dreamt.
Yeah, every bit helps. And it's what we do as a community effort. Every bit helps. But I can honestly say that we're blown away, and my team's going to be so excited. Thank you
Yay!
all. Yeah.
I want to get out there and plant some more corals with you at some point. So that's also
Yes.
my list of things to do.
Yeah, please do.
All right. Well, let me let you go, and you can go enjoy the rest of your day.
Sounds good.
You.
I might take a nap as well.
There you go. Smart woman. All right. I'll let you go. Bye.
Have a good one. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
All righty. We're back to me. So let me go ahead and take these off. I never want to wear these again. They, after wearing them for 24 hours, it was hard on my ears. But yeah, I mean, guys, can you believe this thing? I love this check. And, honestly, she's not getting it. I'm keeping it. I'm going to hang it up in the studio because, I mean, this thing is so cool. They're getting the money. We'll keep the memento. And this will be really nice to have. Can I put it right here? Let's see if this will work right here for now. Without dropping everything. Let's do that for now. Yeah. So, there you go. That was, let's see, what else can I tell you? Out of the 24 speakers, we had 23. We had one person, I just never could get a hold of them. I mean, they were just no email, I couldn't, and they were in Australia. And I really wanted to have them on, but I kept emailing and emailing. I even had someone else reach out to that person directly in Australia and say, can you please call them with your phone? And they reached out, and we just couldn't get a hold of them. So we were missing one speaker, but because everything was running late, it kind of all worked out in the end. Then, like you guys saw the picture, we went to dinner, which was nice. There was actually, if you're curious about these kind of things, there was 234 people that entered the raffle. So there was your odds, comparing against others. And I didn't look closely. That software creates this giant spreadsheet, and it shows all the things you bought tickets for, which is kind of neat. And then it shows what you actually won. And I didn't study it. I'm just trying to get the addresses, put them on the labels, and ship. But I did notice one person bought something like $9 in tickets and won a whole bunch of stuff. And shipping of that stuff was $27. I was like, well played on that $9. I mean, you just don't know. The salt is a whole thing, guys. And I haven't solved it yet, but I'm close. So let me tell you, everyone that won a box of salt, and some of you, one of you won 4 boxes. And so when I went to my shipping portal and I plugged in the size of the box and the weight times 4, it said shipping was $350. And I thought, $350? That's crazy. So I said, let me pick a different person, different location, put in the weight and the size of the box. And it was like $81. Like, oh my God, $81. I have 12 of these boxes. That's going to be like $1,000 shipping just for salt. That can't be right. There's no way this is real. How do these companies do free shipping? It makes no sense. So I contacted FiniShip and I said, hey, are you sure my discounts are being applied? Because I'm not going to hit print until you confirm it. And he says, no, it's right. I'm like, I just need you to triple check. Just look. Make sure it's on my account. Just make sure. He goes, okay, give me 15 minutes. And so while I'm waiting, I thought, you know what? I'm going to call Sean at Fritz and say, how on earth do you guys ship salt? And so I told him what was going on, that my cheapest label was $62, and that was to go to Amarillo, which is 5 hours away. And the highest was like $82 for one box. And a box of salt is $89, so how can shipping be $82? I mean, it's unbelievable. And he said, oh, no, it shouldn't be that bad. And so he suggested a solution, but we haven't done it. So the solution will be through a third party that supposedly every box shipped is $25 shipping, which is way more affordable. I can definitely handle that. I just didn't want to spend $1,000 to ship 12 boxes of salt because that's just crazy. But I want you to get your prizes. So I'm still working on it. So if you're wondering what's going on, that's part of my process. It takes time for me to get things done. As I mentioned to Michelle, I haven't paid the speakers yet. I haven't figured out how much money I've spent of the money from the sponsorship in preparation for the show. And I want to make sure I have enough money for all the things. I got to cover all the shipping. I got to cover the speakers. I got to reimburse Me Loves Reef what it was spent on for, to do the show itself. So I have some numbers to crunch. And, my CPA will get it all sorted and everything like that. And if anyone ever wants to come to me and say, show me your numbers, we'll have transparency. So, whatever. I mean, I'm an honest guy. If somebody absolutely needs to see something, I'll show it to him because I'm not going to hide anything. But all this was done was a labor of love for you guys because there was no MarcNA. I wanted to have an event, and so I signed myself this crazy task 85 days ago. Well, 85 days before the show, and somehow pulled together a mega show under very difficult circumstances. It should not have been that hard. It should have just been, okay, it's hard to juggle 24 speakers. It should not have been trying to survive a storm. I did notice someone mentioned, did the insurance take care of you on the truck? I don't know where that comment went, but let me tell you. I want to answer some of your questions. We're going to do some Q&A. I have no topic today. This was the topic. But the truck itself, the good news is I have the right insurance. Thank God, for once. Because I hate that we pay and pay and pay, and then when it's time to make a claim, you're not covered, or it's the wrong coverage, or it's not enough coverage. So, I have full coverage on my truck because that's how I roll, literally. And I remember going into, I'm with AAA, and I said to them, I want better insurance. And they said, what do you mean? I said, listen, I'm driving down the road and someone plows in the side of my car, and then you guys say it's totaled, and now I have 6 more years of payments. That's not fair. I want an insurance that gets me another one of my car with no payments. And they said there's no such thing. And I was like, there needs to be. And they said, well, if it existed, it'd be super expensive, which kind of, when you think about it, it means you have another car payment on top of your car payment. I was like, all right, fine. And so I was like, I guess I'll just keep using what I have. So anyway, I sent over my footage to AAA on, I think it was Tuesday. Maybe it was Monday. I think I called them on Monday finally and said, look, I need to open a claim. And I've been with them for 17 years. So, they're like, okay, let's take care of you, which I thought was nice. That's a good start. And they said, you're covered. I got these really nice texts with a lot of information. And basically it was saying things along the lines of your deductible is $250, which isn't bad. I could have been way worse, right? And the rental car is like for as long as it takes to fix the truck. So it's not one of those things where you only have 30 days. And now you got to scramble to go rent a car yourself to survive a little bit longer. And then my son, he works for Progressive. And he started off years ago, when he was much younger, as a porter. Now, the porter is a guy that cleans your car after it's been repaired. So these guys repair the whole car, and then they give it to the porter. He goes through and cleans it inside and outside and makes it beautiful, and then hands the keys to the customer. That was his job. And he did that for a while, and he didn't like it. He found it to be a dangerous job. And I always thought, that's kind of weird. What on earth could be happening? He says, you don't understand. When I'm cleaning the seats, sometimes there's needles in the cushions of the seat. And I can get stabbed. I could get something. And I was like, wow, really? That's crazy. And he goes, and it's not just once. It happens a lot. So he really wanted to stop being a porter. And he ended up getting inside the building and became like a parts manager. And he would literally order the parts for the repairs. And he would order all the little clips to put something on. And he'd order the snaps for this thing. And he'd get the beam. And he'd get the, whatever it was they needed for the repair. He would order it. And he was really good at what he did. And then after a while, he got an opportunity to do something else, and he ended up becoming, I think he's an adjuster, where he would then make the list of all the parts that had to be, because now he's used to parts, right? So he could make the list and tell the company, these are what we're going to need to fix the vehicle, and he would talk to the customer and make sure that they were happy and, be that go-between. And since then, he's even moved up one notch above that, which I think it's sort of that, but a little bit more complex. But not management. He's still working like all of us. And so he said, Dad, you need to take your truck to this Service King because if the guy that works there, the body shop guy, he is just fantastic. He says, I'm going to call that shop and make sure he still works there. If he does, you want him to do your truck. I was like, okay. So then when I'm on the phone with AAA, I said, they said, well, you can go to this one or this one. I was like, well, my son says I have to go to this other Service King that's not on your list. Is that going to be a problem? And, they kind of said, well, we like our stores. And then finally she's like, okay, yeah, you can use them. So then yesterday I'm on the phone with Service King and I said, I want to go to this shop. And even that person said, well, that's not under AAA. I was like, well, AAA says it's fine. They've already sent the check there, and my truck is in my driveway. So I think it's going to be all right. So she put me on hold. She called, and she verified, and she came back. She was, okay, the first opening we have to schedule you is like October 2nd. So I'm still going to be driving my dented up truck for a couple more weeks, which is fine. I have way too much going on to lose my vehicle. Even with a temporary whatever I'm going to get next, I don't know if they're going to give me another truck or if they're going to give me a car. I have no idea, but I'm going to be in something. So for now, I still drive it. The engine, everything's fine. It just looks beat to death, So I want to get it back to its former glory because I still have like 15 or 16 more payments on that car before it's paid off. And it's still a baby. It only has 37,000 miles. So I want my baby to look good again. So that's the news on the insurance. I saw someone made a comment here about the generator too. Reefkeeper says you should consider a generator interlock kit. It connects to your breaker box. You plug the generator to one outlet and use breakers to provide power to extension cords. Makes life easy. I can't. I have done what I can do. So there's just too much going on in my breaker panel to do what you described. Yes, with a normal guy, that would be totally fine. I've got a sub panel just for the reef room with 6 circuits. I've got an outside building with another 6 circuits. I've got Minion with some major circuits. And the breaker box itself is maxed. There is not room to squish in one more wire. When we installed that new air conditioner a month ago into the garage area, we squeezed in the last wire. Done. And Bobby says, no more. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. What about a hot tub? So what we installed, and I think I shared it on this stream with some pictures, next to my sub panel that goes to the fish room, there's this new big brown box with one big breaker. And underneath it is this giant outlet for like a plug, like you might plug into a motorhome. And so my generator's sitting out in the dirt. I ran the wire through the wall of the house, through the brick, all the way to out there. It's super long. It's like 50, 75 feet, something like that. I pull the generator way out into the open. I plug in a giant green plug into it. On the other end, inside the garage, I have a coil of wire I lift up, and there's a huge plug, and I put it in, and I twist something to lock it, and I just go click, and boom, I've got generator power to the entire fish room and every outlet in the fish room. And that's why I can run extension cords to other areas of the house, like the refrigerator, or I could run it to the router, the television, a few things. But yeah, ideally it'd be great to just be able to flip something and have the air conditioner keep running. That'd be really, really nice. But that is the biggest energy hog, and I can't do that. So I'm just working within my limits. But yeah, I would love that. Let's see. I see all the comments about I can't see anything. When will I ever get this show just dead nuts right? When will that ever happen? I always have little tiny hiccups. Grassy Peak says, it was awesome. I'm going to do some volunteering for Coral Restoration Foundation as a result of MarcNA. Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Cheers, Chris. Teaching kids about climate change and ocean acidification with corals in the classroom. That'll be good. That'll be really good. That's a great topic. Thank you for delving into that. Let's see. I see people joking about the ocean using Kessels versus radions. Let's see what else. Titanium hammers. That might work. I don't know. I was trying to think what kind of hammer could you use in salt water that just would not wreck. I mean, these guys that do the oil drilling, they must have salt water-proof tools, but they probably cost a lot too. Can you believe Polo Reef reached out to me and doubled our donation? That was just amazing. Seriously, I mean, I literally wrote the words, I don't know what to say. And super great. And he followed up. I mean, he didn't just make this offer and then vanish. The next day he's like, where am I sending the money? And I was like, I'm not ready. And then I think it was yesterday I said to him, you can do what you want to do. I mean, however you want to do it. And we finally just agreed. The best thing is just mail me that check. I'll put it in the same envelope with the check I'm sending. And then Wellness will send their check. So they'll get 3 checks and it adds up to 20 grand, which is really, really amazing. Brian says there needs to be a MarcNA 2.0. Speaking of 2.0, okay, let me address that first of all. No, never again. I'm taking this as a win. We successfully did it. It went well-ish. I mean, it could have been better, but it was the best I could manage under really dire circumstances, and I'm glad we were able to get all the way through to the end and wrap up. I wanted a full night's sleep before the show, not 2 hours. I wanted, like I said, to give the sponsors a lot of love. I wanted to interact with the audience, of course, a lot more. I wanted to see more people on the streams with us. And, I mean, those are some things I wanted. But in the end, we're all individuals. We're all doing things on our own schedules. We're all doing what we can. But Monday, I think Sunday, I took all the videos before I went to sleep and made a playlist. So you can literally go to youtube.com, /MeLovesReef, and then you can go to the playlist and you can find the MarcNA. You could just binge it. You can go right through the whole ordeal, including the little hiccups. It's all in there. I did fix the one video, I think it was the second video, where I was playing the Polo Reef footage, and then it was supposed to loop so we could talk off camera. And I looked at the screen and it was black. I was like, no, it didn't loop. And I'm pretty sure you could hear that on camera. But, I hit end to the live stream. But I did trim that off, so it's gone. So now it's not a weird, odd, strange distraction when you're trying to play these videos back. The videos themselves look so good. I watched 2 of them on my television today. 2 of the presentations I actually missed because I was off camera for a couple of different incidences. And they were so good. They were really informative. I mean, oh my God. If you have not watched them all, somehow pencil them into your schedule and work your way through them one by one. There was not one talk that was a disappointment other than the one from Mark Levinson at 6 a.m. when I did not want to talk. And yet, even then, we turned on the camera and we vented for 20 minutes. And people in the audience were loving it. They said, this is the best part. I think they wanted to see me crack. I don't know. But yeah, what had happened was Dwayne took on Paul Meyer, the presentation called Reef Forever, I think it's called. And I really wanted to talk with Paul. Paul's a captain, goes out on the Great Barrier Reef, collects corals. They're banking them to save them for the future. Super interesting guy. And I was like, I cannot wait to sit down with you. And I was just literally falling asleep at the mic. And I was like, Dwayne, you got to sit in for me. And so Dwayne did. And I crawled into my bed because at that point it was, I guess, 5 a.m. And the AC had been running for about 6-7 hours. And the house had cooled down back to its normal 72. And I went to sleep. And apparently I slept for 40 minutes. And when Dwayne woke me up, he says, Mark, you got to wake up. It's your turn. My body was vibrating. It was so mad at me for waking up. And I was just in a terrible mood. I was like, oh, no, I don't want to do anything. He goes, Mark, it's your hour. It's literally your topic. What are you talking about? I was like, I got nothing. I got nothing to say. I don't want to say anything. Everything's been discussed. We're done. And he's like, you got to put something on camera. I said, fine, you get in here. Ian, get in here. And I made them join me. Is that in here somewhere? I thought I had that picture. I guess not. But I have another picture of us in here. And we were all, goofy, giddy, whatever you want to call it. What happens when you've not had enough sleep? We were a little silly. But we got through it, and then the next speaker started, and we were back on track again. And we kept working our way through the end of the show. Then, like I said, we did go to sleep. And then, we got up and went to a nice dinner. And then I said, listen, guys, you're leaving in the morning, but you're not going to leave me with that situation in the raffle room. There's no way. I will never know where to pick up what you've organized. And I said, I'm going to need both of you to help me to organize these with the names. And so we worked on it probably from, I'd say, 8 o'clock at night until 1 in the morning. And they were like, okay, calling again at night. And I took Ian back to his hotel. And I went ahead and I went to sleep. Dwayne went to sleep. And then we got up again first thing in the morning. And I picked up Ian. And we went out there for another couple of hours. And we finally felt like we'd got it right. Because we found mistakes. And we're like, oh, this is wrong. And we're tearing open the boxes again. I'll show you that one picture again. We had the boxes. We put the post on top for who the box goes to. Then I have to print the labels, obviously. We even wrote on the post-its what's in the box. And then we discovered, like, for example, one thing that tricked us was Fritz RPM. So Fritz RPM to us is salt. It even says it, Fritz RPM Reef Pro Mix. Well, there's also Fritz RPM Elementals, which is their elements. And so we were giving people salt when we were supposed to give them bottles of liquid. And so we had to redo our packing to get that corrected. And it was just one of those things you're like, okay, glad we figured that out before we shipped it, but it was one of those things. And so we made all our corrections at 10:30 in the morning. I drove Ian to his airport, and then Dwayne rode with me to his airport, and then I finally came home, and I tried to get some sleep. And I've been trying to catch up on sleep all week. I cannot believe how hard it's been for me to get back onto a normal schedule. And even yesterday, I mean, I did nothing except work on Coral Magazine. So yeah, I should mention that Choral Magazine is my second job now, and the publication has to go to print right now as of October 10th. So I've got less than a month to get the magazine done. And so I spent pretty much most of yesterday working on it, and I'll be working on it again tomorrow because that freight train also has to stay on the tracks and cannot miss a deadline. Just like MarcNA had to happen, and we got through that one. So there you go. There's a lot going on with the with my life, but I signed up for it. I'm a lunatic. Why would I not think you should not do a 24-hour event with 24 speakers and raise money for a nonprofit? You should just keep working on your business. But no, I'm like, I have a great idea. Let's do all this on top of everything else I do. So it's been pretty crazy. Let's see. Oh, 2.0. So I wanted to mention something about that. I noticed in the comments when Dwayne was interviewing Paul, and he also interviewed Tia Davis, in one of those, people said, is that Mark 2.0? And I just thought that was hilarious because Dwayne and I really do think similarly. We're really good friends, and we're on the phone a couple times a week, so it makes sense that you kind of see a parallel there because we kind of are on the same wavelength. We've kind of in the hobby sort of the same amount of time, and we feel the same about corals, and we care about our livestock and that kind of stuff. And I listened to his interview style, and man, he had some great interviews. And like I said, the quality, the 4K quality of the slides and the videos and the pictures is exactly what I wanted to see, and it did exactly what I wanted. And putting the speaker in a little tiny circle at the bottom, if their internet wasn't so great, worked in our favor. And that was my master plan. So I got one thing completely right, and I was really happy about that. I know that Ryan was in here earlier. I don't know if he's still here now, but Ryan, thank you so much for your contribution. Matter of fact, I'm going to do it for all the sponsors. So Ryan is with SlideLock, and SlideLock gave us a ton of prizes, and that's why we had to do these combos with lots of things together. And he said, he was promoting MarcNA like crazy. I saw his posts every single day. He was probably posting more than I was, and I was trying to do as much as I could. But he also said, sell sell $500 worth of raffle tickets for my goods, and I'll match it. And then his company said, here's another $500 on top. So that happened. CJ said, we can give you a ton of gear, and they did. They gave us a lot. They gave us pumps to change your water, pumps to change the flow in your tank, return pumps, pump clean, swag bags with like little backpacks and towels and things. There was a bunch from them. Let's see, who was the other one? Fritz, of course. Not just salt, but a ton of other things. And I had to have someone pick that up for me because that was also on Friday. I was like, I don't have these prizes. I need them here. And so my friend Chris, who lives locally, he was working in Dallas. And so he drove over there and got it all into his vehicle, hauled it to my house. I wasn't even back from the airport yet with Ian. And there was this whole pile of stuff in front of my house near the front door. And there was a big piece of paper that said, Mark Levinson, do not touch. Because criminals are so obedient, That was hilarious. But it worked. They didn't touch it. And we brought it all inside. And so there was all kinds of Fritz products. And who else did we have? Hang on, let me bring it up. I don't want to forget people. I want to keep track of everyone. We had... oh, yeah, of course. We had the website. So Peter set up that website for us in the first place. And so I really am appreciative to him that he did that, because he said, no big deal, I can just create that, and we'll populate with the speakers, we'll put the sponsors, we'll put the information about the talks. And so that was literally our spot. And a lot of people, unfortunately, my fault, didn't know where to go to find information. And there just wasn't enough of us. We needed a couple more volunteers to handle things. And we could have had someone out there that was pointing people to this area or living in the, Andrea worked nonstop in the chat to keep people up to date on what's going on. She was updating Club Mila's Reef because that is our area. And so I thought that makes sense. That's a good place. But people didn't understand. Even when I was telling them at the end of the stream, go back to youtube.com/Mila's Reef and find the next stream because it's going to be there. But that just wasn't an easy hurdle because it wasn't like there instantly. It took us 10 minutes to get the next speaker set up. Marco Rock sent us a bunch of stuff and donated a bunch of stuff that they're drop shipping. So they sent us two different styles of rock. One is that natural look you guys are so used to that looks kind of white. And then they got the new one that looks purple, but it's not paint and it's not dye. And that's cool. So this is some kind of a natural element they're using, and it doesn't fade either. Because I was thinking, so you put the purple rock in the tank, and it's gradually, my brain thinks it's going to fade away, but the coralline takes over, and it all works out in the end. But they're like, no, the color stays. That's neat. So they sent that. They also included some drinking glasses that I kept because I couldn't see myself shipping glass and rock successfully. And they did it to me, and I think they were nuts. I opened a box full of rock, and there's another box inside with drinking glasses. So they're here. So if somebody needs a MarcNA Rocks drinking glass, you can let me know. But for now, they're just washed and sitting on my kitchen counter. Two Little Fishies sent us so many interesting things. I was like, I should be carrying these products in Me Loves Reef. There was a lot of neat things in there, and so we did these combos. An Apogee meter was in the raffle. That was actually handed to me at MarcNA last year. They said, give this to someone. So I just sat on it, and I was like, I know what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to put it in the raffle for Coral Restoration Foundation. And so somebody won that meter, along with some other goodies. They actually did quite well in the raffle and got a lot of things, and I remember packing their box. We got products from Aqua Illumination. Two of those AI blades are going to Australia to one of our speakers. Scott Oliphant won that. Still have to box that up and ship it. Ecotech Marine sent us an MP10 and something else. Can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but there was products from them. Neptune Systems sent us an Aqua Controller Junior and an MXM, Mobius XM, MXM module, and a couple other things. Those all went up. Benepets gave us a ton of stuff to give away. We had so much food. If you guys won food, I hope you're loving that food because it's so cool. It's so easy to use. I still live for the powder, but the new pellet line they've come out with, I actually carry all three brands in melovesreef.com. So if you want to buy it, you can buy it from me, and I appreciate the business. Did I forget anyone? I think I talked about all the sponsors. We had a couple other things happen, like Frank was here. He was dropping off an extra camera and some extra light in case we needed it, and he put a $100 gift card for his shop as a raffle prize. And there's a guy whose name is Gabriel. He's creating these little frag discs and these little aquascape structures, these like an aquaculture, what did he call it? Aquascape tree, and it's very, very brittle. And it actually arrived at my house broken. But he makes these, and he wants to do a business, and he wants to ship these things across the U.S. So he contributed. He's sending some stuff to a winner. There was a company, Comeback Corals, I believe is the name. They contributed an anemone. I put in a couple of mystery frag packs. I haven't even begun to do that. So those, if you're in this live stream, you're like, what about my prize? It's coming when it comes. But it is going to happen. But so there's that. So there was a few other things. But in the end, I think we had a really, really good show. And I think it went the best we could do. I mean, really, if you had lived on this side, you would have hated it. What you see on your side looks really, really good. And I'm glad. I mean, I see the flaws and mistakes, of course, as I'm doing playback. But I always do that. I do that with my own show every Saturday. I mean, I'll do it with this episode. I'm like, why is the screen black? Why didn't it play through? What was the deal? And I know what I did wrong, but it's just one of those things where I goofed up. All right. Do you guys have any questions? I'll be happy to answer them. And I'd love to hear, if you have the time, to tell me which talks you liked. Which was the best one to you? Which one stood out the most? Which one surprised you? I had one speaker that gave me like 4 slides or 6 slides, and I was super nervous. And he was so good. And it worked out really, really well. And the couple of talks that I missed that I ended up watching today were excellent ones too. Tia Davis said, she reached out. She goes, I want to be a speaker at MarcNA, and I am your macroalgae girl. I was like, okay, good, check. I just put her in the schedule. I didn't even debate it. And she was fantastic. Sorry, I didn't mean to be so loud. She was really, really good. She talked about, okay, how many of you knew there was more than one Chetomorpha? I knew there was one. No, there's a bunch of them. And some don't do well in a reef tank, and others do. And that could explain why some people set up a reactor and it just dies. Because she said it won't live in a reef tank. And I was like, wow. She had lots of interesting information in her presentation. Alex Rose was one of the highlights for me. I love the photography she does and what she shares. I'm just blown away at the where she gets to go. She gets to go to these fantastic places that none of us get to go to. I don't even know how she gets in them. I mean, I'm assuming they're all protected and they're all, nationally. It's some kind of, what do you call it? When a nation says this area is off limits, and yet she gets to get pictures there because she's clearly got permission. She's with someone like Dr. Sylvia Earle or somebody, somebody that got her in. And so she gets these amazing opportunities. And so getting to talk with her was really great. Yes, Ryan said the deep water diving was one that loved. That was Brian D. Green. I had been wanting to get him on this channel for like 3 or 4 years. And he kept saying, sure, anytime, but never happened. Man, it was great to have him on. And I still feel like I have another 500 questions for him. Yeah, Morgan Moore was great. So she's out of Florida. And that was a recommendation from Ian. He told me about her. And he said, you should have her on. And she was trying to make my life as easy as possible, but yet she kept texting me. And I'm not a fan of texting. I mean, I understand the necessary text, but I'm not a fan of getting lots of texts. And so I'm like replying, but like, I have so much to do. And he was like, and she would say, I know you got a lot to do. I'm like, yes, I do. But no, her presentation, let me talk to you about her coral farming. She didn't really go into it as much into this point. I don't think she did. She has a spot. So she's in Miami, but she goes to Marathon. And Marathon is down in the Florida Keys. You have to drive 2 hours to get to where her corals are in a farm. And she basically is doing a co-op. That's what I call it. And when I was in Switzerland, a lot of people did this. They'd live in the city, but they go out into this co-op and they'd have this strip that they could grow vegetables on. And there was another strip that was another neighbor and another and another. And there was all these vegetables from all these people that all lived in the city. And they would go out on the weekend and putter around and harvest their veggies, the fruits, whatever. And I thought, that's kind of what you're doing. Because there's this place full of tanks and she has one tank that's hers, one trough. And she goes out there and tends to it. And she's only going out there like once every couple of weeks. And if you were being a coral farmer, don't you think you'd be around your corals a lot more often? I mean, it's kind of interesting. And yet she's making it work. And there's someone always on site, and they're doing things too. So she's getting some help. But at the same time, she's not there day in, day out. And you know how we are about our aquariums every minute of the day. We want to know every single thing and what's going on. But yeah, so she's doing that kind of work. And it's not even like in her basement or in a bedroom or in the garage or something. No, it's 2 hours away. Got to drive to your farm. That was interesting to me. Kevin Erickson about fish disease and how to prevent it in the first place was great. And then he talked to us about AIMS and what they're doing with their. I mean, there was so many presentations about preserving corals for the future, about coral propagation, about banking corals, about coral spawning efforts. I mean, there was so many good talks. And then Walt Smith dropped a huge bomb. He was speaker number 4. Who was Walt Smith? That was the name of the topic. And we just came up with that on the fly because he agreed to speak the day before the event. He was kind of interested and I kept that window open for him. And then he says, yes, I'm doing it. And he called us all the way from Fiji. And he told us, if you didn't hear this, be ready because this is huge. Fiji is going to open up again and allow export of fish and corals again. And that, or at least corals, which was not allowed, and rock, which was not allowed. It's been like disallowed for, 7 or 9 years. I remember we were devastated when that was locked down. Like, that's it. You can't have anything from Fiji. It was one of those things where the government made a ruling and you couldn't change their mind. And he has been working super hard. I'm actually wearing one of his shirts right now, by the way. I mentioned that on his stream. FijiBod.com is where you can get these shirts. And this one is a picture he took. It's made colorized and everything. Yeah, pretty sure I'm looking at an Acropora. I think that's what this is. But he told us it's almost there. We're like 1 or 2 weeks out from it's officially, we're legal, we can start. And he came on to tell that on camera to the world, which was because, at first he's like, I don't think I want to discuss that. I'm like, okay. And then he just decided to just tell. I was like, wow, he told everyone. So that is huge news. Walt Smith has been around for a super long time. I mean, longer than I've been in this hobby. I got to meet him in 2002. He was the keynote speaker at MarcNA, and he did a whole video showing how they would take the corals and put them on those beds that you saw in the video presentation, I hope. And he explained how if a storm flipped the bed, because of the way it was built, the corals would not get crushed. They would just hang upside down until divers could come out and just flip it right side up again. It was a brilliant strategy. And then he had all this rock. They made the rock, they'd put it in the ocean, they'd let it get covered in coralline and all kinds of life, and then they would put it in boxes and they would ship it to the US, to here, so that we could put it in our aquariums. And I loved it. And I remember at one point, hobbyists, because y'all are so noisy, they were complaining about all the weird things that came on the rock. So he actually would tell his employees there in Fiji to take a saltwater pressure washer and blast the rock, all the things off of it so it's clean. He got rid of all the sponges, the tunicates, the macroalgae, the feather dusters. It was all blown off the rock, put in boxes, and shipped over, to us. Worst thing y'all could have done was complain about the goodies that came in from the ocean, because that is your biodiversity. And you guys know I love live rock. And so when he did that, I was like, no! And he was showing it on video, and they're like, shh. I was like, oh, man. I mean, it's still live rock, but you've reduced so many of the cool things that you could have got for free. And it was gone. But anyway, we would also get corals from Walt Smith, and you'd see this little mini colony on a purplish rock. And you knew. You walked into a fish store and you saw that purple rock, you knew that was a Walt Smith coral and you wanted it. And you'd buy those and they come with that base. And you could just set it anywhere in your rock work. Or, if you want, it wasn't frag plugs. We're talking about a chunk of rock that was made specifically for every single coral. And, I had several of those back in the day. They were great. And some of his rock is still in my reef tank now. My 400 gallon. And I remember when I put it in there, I was like, this is a Walt Smith rock. Because he'd make them a certain way and you just recognized them. They'd have like a hole through the middle, but it was kind of offset and kind of at an angle. And you'd have a few of those and you just knew that was that. So, yeah, that was really cool. Let's see, who else? Scott's talk about the parasitic copepods. He had video of those little bastards. That was really interesting. And those, as far as I know, they're still not identified yet. It's a new pest. So if you haven't watched that yet, you should. Travis Knorr, the president of MarcNA, he did two video interviews at two different locations. And so those were fun to watch. And if you haven't gotten a chance, you should do it. James is up late at night with me. We actually bumped him a full hour because we were behind schedule. And he talked about giant clams. And he actually talked about giant clams where everyone in your family could appreciate it. And it wasn't just, like only for aquarists. And then he finally got into, now let's talk about clams in the aquarium. And he got even more interesting. And I remember going, man, I'm learning stuff. I mean, this is great. And I actually have his clams book over here somewhere, probably right down there. And yeah, he was sharing some really, really good information. So you definitely don't want to miss out on watching that. I'm going to probably push these videos out like this week. Every day I'll release one of the videos again on Facebook. And, remind you guys, but all you have to do, you're on the channel, you know what to do. Go find the video, go watch it. Go enjoy it. Gene and I, okay guys, seriously. Gene and I talked about ICP testing. And then, I think it was Tuesday, he and I got on the phone and talked for an hour and a half about ICP testing more. And I said, why didn't we talk about this on the live stream? Because this is great stuff. So what had happened was Andre Mueller from the Moonshiners ICP testing system, he sent me a kit to try out. And I shipped it through their site. I did everything he said to do. I followed the instructions to the T. And I sent it to him, and then he sends it overseas, and you get your results pretty quick. I mean, honestly, I think I shipped everything on Wednesday or Thursday, and I feel like by Tuesday I had my answer from the Moonshiner ICP results from Oshimo. And I also, the same day, I took a sample out of my tank and threw it toward Reef Labs and let Gene test it, so I could have these two test kits side by side, because I was curious. I wanted to see what would come back, if there was any big changes or if they were pretty much the same thing, because why not? And so then, Andre immediately saw my results and he says, yeah, you need to do a bunch of water changes and your nitrates are sky high. And I forget, there was something else that he didn't like. Iodine was crazy high or something. So then, being being the person I am, I'm like, hey, Gene, would you mind taking a look at this other report and compare it to the one you did and tell me why they don't agree? And he says, okay, yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with you about this. And we talked about it, and we talked and talked and talked and talked. And he knows so much. And it was funny, somewhere around the 55-minute mark, I couldn't pay attention anymore. And he says, yep, you've reached saturation. I'm like, I'm fully saturated. I don't know what you're saying anymore. I'm trying to follow, but my eyes are blurry. I don't know what's happening. And, but it was really interesting stuff. I think we need to have him on again. I think we need to get more deeper into this. But he taught me things that I've never understood. And I was like, this is fantastic stuff. So okay, ppm stands for parts per million, right? And when you get reports on reeflabs.com, it might say 0.001 of, like cobalt, for example. It's super low, so low. But I didn't know what to call that number. Is that, because it's tens and hundreds and thousands, right? And he explained to me, I don't know, it was just like this light bulb moment went off in my head. It was like, okay, so a ppm, that's a millionth. And then this number with the decimal and 3 numbers, it's a billionth, parts per billion. I finally understood ppb. I was like, oh! I couldn't correlate that in my head. I just knew it was below ppm. It was a fraction thereof. But I was like, this is the kind of stuff. I mean, we need to have him in front of a whiteboard, with a Sharpie or whatever you write on a whiteboard with. And literally, he was explaining how they break down the molecules of the water sample, and then they turn it into a mist. And the mist has to be a certain size. So you might have big water droplets. Those get evaporated. And the finer ones go through a very tiny hole. And then you talked about how as stuff goes through this tube, that certain things will stick because they're a really sticky element. And because of that stickiness, it can throw off a result. And so you might get a really high number for something because of that stuff. And that stuff that's on the tube that is sticky, you know what they call that? They call that memory. It's stuff that's stuck on there that shouldn't be there that threw off the results, and that's why they do triple runs of every single test. I was like, oh. It was so much. We got to get him on again, and I want him to just tell everything. I want y'all to learn, because that was we're all talking about ICP testing. Every time somebody has a problem with their tank, the comment always is, did you do an ICP test? But then you've got the other end of the spectrum where people are like, I don't trust them, or I don't believe them, or I read this thread where it shows that, they never are the same, even when you send them 3 of the exact same sample, and I call BS. So, there's all that. So it's really hard you have to at some point have some faith in somebody. Faith in something. You have to have faith in your test kit, faith in your fish store, faith in your ICP, whatever it is. You have to have a little bit of trust and say, okay, based on this result, I'm going to do this. And you send off another sample and you see if it worked. And now you can dial it in, But if you get crazy erratic numbers every single time, especially if you're doing it pretty quickly. If you're doing, for example, and I'm not telling you to do this. This is something I did, but I'm not asking you to do it. If you were doing an ICP test every single week for 2 months, you could totally tell if you're getting erratic numbers or not, because it's every single week. And you know what you're doing with your tank. You know what you're adding, or you know what you're not adding. So for example, if I was not dosing iodine for 4 weeks, but the number kept going up, I would then say, well, this test cannot possibly be true. Where is this iodine coming from? Is it coming from the fish food? Is it coming out of my rock? What is happening? And I could identify it. But if I have a low iodine level, I dose what I need to put in the tank, and I do my next result and the number's right, I also have verified that my dose was the right amount. That makes sense. So that's what I'm saying. If you're doing repeated tests close together, you can see if it's accurate. If you're spreading them out really far apart and you get some kind of weird number and you're not following up with it pretty quickly, yeah, you're probably always going to have your own doubts. And I could understand having that doubt, but that's why I would I'd throw another test in the mail and say, let's double check that and see what happens. So that was a really good one. Our one speaker we didn't get to have, unfortunately, was the one from Cairns Marine. And if I can get him on at a later date, I think we should do it, because they have a fantastic message. Steve Harder was here from Georgia Aquarium, And he did a really good presentation that I think many of you probably really appreciated. He kind of gave you that behind the scenes tour on camera. But if you do go to the Georgia Aquarium, spend the extra, whatever it is, $55 or maybe it's more, and do it. You'll be behind everything for probably, I'm going to guess, an hour, maybe an hour and a half, or maybe that was just me because it's me. But maybe I was stalling because I was asking so many questions. But no, it's really fascinating stuff to see what's going on behind. They're also very cautious on biosecurity, and they will tell you, you can't lean over this tank, or you have to step on this wet mat with your shoes before you step into the room. It's to sterilize your shoes so you don't track something in that could possibly affect the animals later on. Being able to be above the whale shark tank and see the little tiny dinghy that they use to feed the whale sharks every day, it's pretty cool stuff. And it's a monster body of water, and you see the lights above. It's really worth it. I love the behind the scenes. And then Dennis talked about his macroalgae tanks. And, Dennis was someone I was following on Instagram a year and a half ago. And I loved his videos because they're short, they're super clean. I mean, it's like that Apple quality, that I always compare everything to. And his music choices are always excellent too. And so they asked him if he would speak at MarcNA, and he was like, I don't want to do it. And I was like, you totally should do it. So he did. And I got to see him at MarcNA before he did the show. I gave him some words of encouragement. He did a fantastic presentation. And then for MarcNA, I was like, hey, can you do another one of those? And he says, only if it's interview style. I'm like, perfect, because that's what I'm doing. So we had our nice little conversation about these plants. But one thing that Dennis made a suggestion of a year ago, he said, I think more hobbyists should start a saltwater tank with macroalgae first, because you can plant in some algae in that tank, and within 2 months the tank is full, and you get that instant gratification. I was like, oh, that actually makes a ton of sense. And then you can rip out all that algae and start planting your corals, because now the tank is established and you've got a nice good biodiversity, and you never saw the ugly stage because it was all under the plants, and the plants utilized a lot of that stuff too. So interesting thought. Don't know how many of you guys are going to do it, but it is kind of a neat premise. Now, obviously there's certain things that are going to be more invasive and harder to eradicate, but just the principle behind getting you a tank, because the freshwater side that I have nothing to do with, I'm going to repeat that. I have nothing to do with freshwater. They will set up a planted tank, and they'll spend all those hours, and then they do it, and then boom, it's done, and they take a picture, and they're done. There's nothing more. They're not there to watch it grow into something like we are with our saltwater reefs. They are creating something really cool. I've seen some really neat things over the years, but for me, that one and done is not really that interesting to look at. I really want to be interacting. I want to get tiny fish to grow into big fish. I want to put in nubs that turn into colonies. I want to see the colonies grow into big colonies and fight their neighbors. I mean, that's where I'm at. And so I don't really want those short little those instant set up your tank and be done things. All right. I see Andre put a link here for the Blue Ocean Designs by Walt, which is the shirt I'm wearing. They have like a dozen. They also have like pillowcases for your sofa. So if you're like, I don't need a Hawaiian shirt, I need Hawaiian shirts. Matter of fact, I might wear Hawaiian shirts the rest of this year, because I actually was going to wear one every hour during MarcNA, and I didn't get to break into those. So I showed a picture of one last Sunday, and I'm wearing this one today. So that means I've got at least 10 more to go. So we'll just do that. Andrea said her favorites were Dr. Fenner and the Clam Guy, James Fothery. James is a teacher, and he goes and travels to places like Egypt with students. And I'm like, I want to be your student. That looks like such a fun trip. Take me. I want to go. But I'm not in his class, and I'm not in his university, and it's kind of a bummer. The aquarium keeper asked an aquarium question. Would you recommend an AI Prime 16 HD over a tank that is 60 centimeters deep? You're making me think in metric. 60 centimeters is maybe 20 inches tall. Yeah, you can do that. That would work. Yeah, Terry. Days of real Fiji rock are coming back. Coming back! And corals. Let's see. Jason already ordered, no, has already received the Giant Clams book from James. That was fast. Yeah, so when I went to his YouTube video today, right before the live stream, I put a link to his website. So if you go to his video and go click there, you can actually buy his new book. Let's see. Oh, Michael says the behind the scenes at Georgia Aquarium is called the Behind the Seas Tour. That's neat. He says the shark cage dive was a bit more expensive, but was well worth it. Yeah, I've never done that. I just have no need to hang out with sharks. That's not my thing. That's Alex's thing. She'll go play with sharks. Yeah, the Zen Ginger says, you were kind of dealing with other stuff with the power and the streams. We'll forgive you the lack of wardrobe changes. Yeah, I really did. I wanted to switch, so every hour it'd be a different shirt. Like, geez, does he have 24 shirts? I didn't, but I had like 11 or so. And I was like, I could do this. And then after 11 hours, you wouldn't notice I'm back in shirt number 1, probably. Maybe. I don't know. Some of you guys are pretty observant. All right. Any other questions? We've been on this stream now for an hour and a half. If not, I do want to repeat that some raffle prizes are still being shipped this week. So if you haven't gotten your stuff yet and you won, don't worry, it's going to happen. Just give me some time because it's me doing it. The process is quite the ordeal. And for me, what really matters is that I get it right. My biggest concern is this. Someone wins a prize and they don't get their prize. And I don't have their prize because I shipped it somewhere. I can't just like fix it and get them another one. I mean, I'm doing the best to put everyone's in their box. And I hope I have a 100% success rate. Okay, that's the bottom line. But if something goes wrong, I'm kind of like, I'm sorry, but I can't go buy that item and ship it to you again. Can't afford to. I mean, it's more like, thank you for your donation to the Coral Restoration Foundation. But I totally want you to get your prizes. So I'm not making excuses or trying to get out of something. I'm just saying I am doing the best I possibly can. But in the end, I'm only human. And so I had 3 people going over those prizes to make sure it's right. Even now, as I pick up a box and I see the name on it, like let's just take Michael Aronson. I see the name, then I have a printout of the winners and I look for all the Michael Aronsons. I put check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. I go to the spreadsheet. I get the address, the phone number, the email. By the way, some addresses were wrong. I'm like, really? How am I supposed to ship it to you when you give me a zip code with 3 numbers? I can't use this. So I then will look at that. I look to see what they won. I highlight it in blue, so that means it's done. I print the label. I put the label on the box. It goes by the door. It walks out the door. I take it to the post office or I take it to UPS. I am literally trying to get this correct with every single one. But I'm terrified that I'm going to mess up a couple. Okay, that's the honest truth. But I will do the best I can. That's all I can do. That's all I can do is the best I can. Let's see. Let's jump to this. I built this whole presentation so that this will go seamlessly today for almost an hour last night. And as you could see, it still wasn't as perfect as I was hoping. But I want to put this on to remind you guys that it is Water Test Saturday and we do need to test our tanks. I got to test my tank big time. I need to check both of the tanks and make sure that everything's fine. I did not do any testing last weekend. Obviously, I had no time. And we never touched it. Dwayne never touched my tank. He was going to be tinkering in it. Nope. That never happened. We worked around the clock. We grabbed little cat naps when we could. But in the end, it was all MarcNA all the time. And instead, all we did was make sure that we were okay, that we got a little food, that Jack got outside. But we didn't touch the aquariums. And I just looked at my reef today. I have this big, really pretty Montipora. It's green with blue polyps that Dwayne gave me a couple of years ago. And today it was like bloop down. It has come off the rockwork. So I've got to deal with that. But it's actually handy because there's a couple of small anemones under it that I was like, how will I get those out? That thing's in my way. Looks like I can put it in my tray, my work tray on top of the tank, scrape those little anemones out of there, put that coral back in that spot. Maybe if I'm lucky, we'll see what happens. But test your water. You want to make sure all your parameters are good. You want to make adjustments with your dosing if they're not. You want to make sure your dosers are calibrated and putting out the right output, because if they're not, then it doesn't matter what you've programmed. Having automation is great, okay? I'm pro automation, but that doesn't mean you can ignore it. Your gear still has to be maintained and observed and verified. I think the saying trust but verify would be really, really smart when it came to reef keeping, because we want to trust our gear, but we want to verify that it's actually doing the job. And, if you're not looking at your stuff closely, if you're overlooking things and making mistakes, things are going to go wrong. I was looking at the body of my skimmer yesterday, and, I just cleaned my skimmer. It was really clean. And I looked at it, it was like all brown this far. And I was like, oh, I know what that means. And I went into the fish room, and there's a button. I pushed it, and the second pump turned on. I was like, oh. So it's literally been skimming in the body all week, but not going up into the cup. And that's because the button was off because of what happened with the storm and the power outage and the extension cords. And so many people walking past that spot, I'm sure it got bumped. So it's back on again because I noticed, but it took me a few days to notice. So do look over your whole tank and look at everything. Make sure everything's right. Make sure your plugs in the wall are all the way in. Make sure there's no salt creep that's heading towards something that could cause a short or a fire or something like that. We want to make sure that everything is nice and clean. If it's not, start cleaning. Wipe things down. Yesterday, I cleaned the top of Caitlin's reef, that top that I have so that the fish can't jump out. And I cleaned the Shark Pro, and I cleaned around the Nero 5, and I cleaned the glass around the Nero 5 so it's nice, and I put it back together. And so the tank looked a little bit better already just from those 3 little steps. But those steps are very necessary to keep the tank operational, because the Nero 5, when it's clogged up, moves less water. And when that thing on the top is all covered in kind of an algae, less light in the tank. And I want to make sure all those things are happening. So, and then of course the Shark Pro, is it's clogged up with gunk inside the sponge filters. It's probably just breaking down nutrients and re-releasing them into the water. So I had to get those rinsed out properly. And those are the kind of little things we have to do as reef keepers. We have little tiny duties that we have to do all the time. And you can do them all on Saturday. You can do them water test Saturday. You do your testing, you do all your cleaning, and then enjoy the tank for 6 days. Or you can tinker with it daily. But ideally, we don't really want our hands in the tanks all the time. It just seems like when we leave them alone, they usually fare much better than when we're constantly in there messing with them. So ideally, I would say, do what you got to do and then leave it alone. Do your water change or whatever it is you do, and then just enjoy the show and, take pictures and share them on Club Mila's Reef. Hey, I'm going to wrap this up, and thank you all for coming to this live stream today. I also want to remind you to please buy things from milasreef.com. It is my way of making a living, and I sell a lot of different aquarium products that are designed to make your life easier. Guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you again next weekend. Bye.